Hello and welcome to our video tutorial. In this video tutorial we're going to look at making a South Park character. Um, so we're going to go File and Open, and I have downloaded a selection of characters from South Park, so I'm going to open this. Now these are our the characters. We're going to crop out one of these and make our own. So we'll have a look at our canvas size here. So the canvas is 2,933 wide and 888 high. So we can change this. We can link or unlink this, but just to be aware that if we're going to make a high definition animation, that the height of the screen is 1,080. So therefore, if this is too small here, this height, if we want a close-up of the character's head or something like that, and this is down around 300, 400, then it will pixelate quite badly. So we're making rasterized images, so they have a finite number of pixels, so if we zoom in too far, they'll pixelate. So just be aware of the size of this and not have it too small. So if I link these together and I make this 1080 and go resize, then my canvas has got bigger, and that's going to be important for us when we're making our character. Okay, so let's get to work here. Okay, so first of all, this is the GIMP. So if you go online, and you can go to this page here, which is the download for GIMP, and download it directly for either Windows if you're using it at home, or in the college we'll use OS X. It's not a very big download, and it'll run quite smoothly on most machines. So I'm going to go to my toolbar here. I'm going to select my rectangular select tool, and I'm going to select my character here on the left, and I'm going to go Image, Crop to Selection. So we're going to get rid of the rest of them. So we'll make this a wee bit bigger, go to our Zoom tool, and zoom in. And normally in the college we use Photoshop, but Photoshop won't run on the Macs, which is why I am running in GIMP now. So if you've selected an area, so if I use this selection tool, or if I select an area and I want to deselect it, you go select none. So the next tool we're going to use is this one here, which is the circular select tool. So I'm going to draw a circle. I can change the shape and size of it here after I've initially drawn it. So that's approximately right, and this is going to be the head of our character. So before I make the head, I'm just going to look over here. I've got one layer here, which is when I opened the image, it came in as a single image with a single layer. So I'm going to go Layer, New Layer, and I'm going to call this one Head. Okay, so there's my layer there. Now, most people make mistakes with layer selection, so I'm going to go back to this layer here and click on the Pet tool, which is the color selection tool, and select the skin tone. I could select, you can see here, the color of his gloves, color of his face, color of his eyes, so skin tone. And then I'm going to go back to my head, which is that layer, and I'm going to use the Paint Bucket tool, this one here, and color it in. Now you can see that this layer is on top, so it covers what's below. I can move the layers around. Now my new head layer is underneath and masked. So, up we go. So now I want to make a hat. So I'm going to go Selection, None. I'm going to use my rectangular select tool. Now I'm still in the head layer, and I'm going to very gently just draw, it's not perfect, but just a rectangle across here. I'm going to use my Paint Bucket tool again, but before that I'm going to take maybe a selection here from, I'm selecting black because I have the wrong layer selected, so maybe go back here and select the pink from his glove, back to my head layer, and fill that in. There we go. So we'll just turn off, so you can turn on and off the layers with the eye here, so just to see. Right, so now I've done that, and I can also go select none and fill in that area as well just by clicking on it. Okay, so that's my first step. So I've got my head done. Next thing I want to do is I want to make a body. Now there's numerous ways for me to do this, but the easiest thing to do, first of all, we're going to make a new layer. I'm going to call this body. Now in South Park, we're going to, well, in our animation, our version of it, we're going to have arms that move, head that can be animated, limited animation, but animated, and then the legs and the feet are all going to be one object, so they can sort of rotate from side to side, sort of give the illusion of walking. So we're going to work on the body now. So I'm going to go to this tool here. This is my selection tool. So I'm going to go back to my South Park character and just use that as a reference. So I'm left clicking. I'm just going to click around base of the face. I'm going to not go too far down. You can see I'm sort of preempting in some respects that I'm going to cut out the arms in a little while, so I'm not including it. So I've got this selection now. Again, I'm on this layer, so I'm going to use my pipette tool and select the color of the jacket here. You can see it's changed. I'm going to go back to my body, go to my pink bucket tool, and fill it in. So now if we turn off the underlying layer, that's the body. Okay, so that's not too bad. And again, I'm going to go selection and none. I'm going to turn that off for a second and go back to my original piece. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make an arm. So we're going to make the arms in separate layers so they can be animated separately. So I'm going to go new layer, and I'm going to go arm left. So my arm's going to be my left arm. So again, I'm going to go back to my reference image, although I don't need to select that to go back to it, but it just makes my life a bit easier. Now I'm going to draw around this. You'll notice that I've sort of duplicated part of this. Now I'm not trying to, at this stage, isolate the hand. I'm just trying to keep it nice and simple. So there's the shape I'm looking for. So again, I can go back to my arm here. I'm going to use the same color palette, so I can color that in. And now I'm going to just draw a hand. Now, to do that, I'm going to go back to my head layer, go to the pipette, and select that color. So now my skin color is selected. Go back to my arm. Now I'm going to go to my brush tool here. So this is the brush tool to draw. So I can draw now. I can change the size of the brush, make it bigger. I can change the type of brush, so I can have soft edges, but I want a hard edge for this. So all I want to do is that. It doesn't have to be hugely precise. So that's arm 1 done. And if we turn these off, we can see there's a black line sort of missing there, so we'll put that in a second. So we will turn off our background and off our head, and we will turn off the body. And what we're going to do is we're going to cheat a little bit. We're going to we're going to change the color here to black. I'm going to reduce that, make a very soft brush, make it very, very small. Zoom in a little further on our image, and click on the zoom tool. And zoom in here, and then we're going to take our, not the pipette, but the brush tool, and again reduce its size. A bit too small. Oop, too big. There, that's about right. And what we can do is we just very gently just draw a dark line. It doesn't matter how good or bad it is. You can determine in your own beautiful designs how thick it should be. So now, when I zoom back out, which is zoom sorry. So I've changed over here, or I can hold in control, and I turn on my body. You can see I've got my line here. So I'm going to repeat that. So I'm going to go select a none. So there's my arm on this side, and I've got my head. So we're getting there. So I'm going to turn back on my reference image, and I'm going to go to the selection tool, and again, just very quickly, I'm going to draw around here and draw down. Now I can't see it, but I can kind of guess where it is. And this is not a work of art that we're creating. This is a kind of a simple tool. So there's my selection. Again, I'm on my reference layer, so I can go to my pipette, select the color of the jacket. I need a new layer, so I'm going to go layer, new layer, and this is going to be arm right. Okay, and now I'm going to fill this in with my paint bucket tool. So there's my layer. As before, I need to select that layer, arm right. Actually, I'm going to go ahead first, go to my pipette, select the skin color, go back to arm right, go to the draw tool, and now we can afford to make that a bit bigger, and just start that there. And if you remember, we changed brush, so it's a harder brush we were looking for, so something more like that. Now this arm is behind the body, so I'm going to literally grab the layer and drag it up. So now it's on top. And then if you remember what we did before, we zoomed in. Nope, select zoom in, sorry, we zoomed in. And then we went to our drawing tool, we set it to be black, and we made this nice and small. And we're just going to draw our black line down along the side of our arm. Just give it a bit of definition. I'm actually going to go to pet, select here, and go back to draw, and basically rub out just a tiny bit at the top. Very good. So now, go back to our zoom tool, and we'll zoom out, and we're on our way. So now, select none. So if I turn off my background reference images, that's where I've got to so far at my South Park character. I'm going to repeat the process for the legs, and they're going to be one object. So I'm going to go to my select tool, and very gently select the feet here and the legs, and I'm going to go layer, new layer. I'm going to call this legs. Pipette, we're on this layer here. We're going to go select blue, go back to legs, and we are going to use this to paint them in. And then, as before, we're going to use the zoom tool and zoom in. And then we're just going to use, we're going to go to black, and we're going to freehand draw in our feet. We make this brush a little bit bigger. So I can do that. And then something similar over there. Maybe be a little, yeah. Not perfect, but it'll do for what we're trying to create. Now, so our South Park character is, we're doing well. We've got all our bits and pieces ready to go. So I'm going to select and go none. Now, it's very easy to go back to the body with my, set to my brush here, make the brush a bit smaller, and zoom in a bit, and add in some detail. So I'll just do a tiny bit of detail here, and then you can do the rest yourselves. So we can add in a button or two. Brilliant. So, and he has, I think the character underneath has sort of a scarf, kind of, or I don't know, a collar to his jacket. So you can do that. Now, the thing I'm most interested in now is the face. So if we turn on our background image and turn off the rest, So in South Park, eyebrows, eyes, and mouth are kind of the main kind of components of the face. And the main parts of the animation, all the expression is through all of these items here. So what we're interested in is creating layers that allow us to animate those items individually. So we'll want 4 layers or 6 layers for the eyes. So let's just have a look at that. So we'll go new layer. We'll call this eye left. And we're going to go back and kind of use a technique we've used before. So I'm going to draw my ellipse. I'm going to color it in white using my paint bucket tool. It's not quite white, it's more blue. So let's go all the way to white. Now let's have a look at our reference image. So let's turn off the head and turn on the background image. So you can see here it's quite big, and the 2 eyes touch. So let's see what we can do here with this. So let us go to our move tool, and we'll move this layer up, and we can oops, let's not do that. Let's go select none. Actually, let's just for rather than getting into more complicated tools, let's just delete that and go again. So let's go layer, new layer, and we'll call it eye left. That's good. And we will create this closer to how we would actually want it. So now we'll color it in white. So there's eye number 1. And then we can take eye left and we can duplicate the layer. And we can call this one eye right. And then we can move eye right so that it's there. Okay. Now, we'll go back to our selection and we go select none. Now, so these are 2 separate objects. We could probably merge them with the head. So there's different ways to merge layers in GIMP. So the only layers that are visible now are the 3 here. So I can right click and I can say merge visible layers. And it says extra. So I can go merge. So now they're all together. So I can turn these guys back on. So that's our kind of our base eyes set up there. So we're going to go layer, new layer, and we're going to go left eye, ball. And this quite literally is the black circle. And this needs to be animated. We need to be able to animate this. And again, I'll set my color and color it in. So this needs to be on top of the head. So that's left eyeball, and then we're going to duplicate the layer as before. And so eye, right, ball. Okay, and then we can use our move tool to, nope, there we go. Move that over there. Now, and we'll go select none. Now what we want to do is make the eyebrows. So we're going to go layer, new layer, and we're going to call this eye left brow. And that's going to be a rectangle. And we'll color that in. Okay, and then we can duplicate that layer. And retype its name. Okay, and then use our move tool, move that layer over here. We can maybe put them in, oops, I got the wrong one, left. I'm going to select none. Use that up to there. And now the mouth. So now what we're looking for is to make sort of the character's mouth, so we can animate that. And in South Park, when what we're going to do is we're going to be able to stretch them out up and down a little bit, so we can do some deformation, but they also swap them out in and out. So we're going to make maybe 2 or 3 different mounts, and then we can turn on and off layers depending on what sort of mount we want. And for this kind of character, if you look at what's our reference, I turn off the head and we look at our reference image, they're quite crude, the mounts. So let's make a scream. So we're going to go layer new, and we'll call this mount scream. And for that, we will zoom in a bit. Oh, that's the wrong way. So zoom in, and we're going to go to our brush tool, and we'll see how big it is. Not that big, and it's black, which is perfect. And we've got mount scream. So let's draw our mount, and it's going to be big, and I think I should be able to just, yeah. So I've filled it in, and I'm going to go back to my brush tool and just draw over the bit that I've missed. And if I go over the edge a bit, that's not so bad. And yeah, so there's my mount open. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the color of my brush to white, and I'm going to draw in some teeth, which is what they do in South Park. This guy here will give him a cute gap in the middle, which I may regress in future designs, and then we can maybe put tooth in there. And on there. So he's a bit mouthy, but anyway, whoops, zoom out. So that's my scream. I can let's make a new layer, go layer, new layer, and we'll call this mount. We'll turn off our, well actually we'll zoom in first. And on this layer, so we've got mount selected, we're just going to make sure we have the right width for mount. Oops, wrong color, so I'm going to go back to black. And so I'll just draw a line across here. They're going to turn off mount scream, and this is him basically going, we're not going to see any teeth. So we'll just draw the mount. And we can have all sorts of variations on that theme, so I'm going to kind of stop there. Now, when we, the last part of this sort of tutorial is we're going to save this character. Now we can add all sorts of embellishments to his hat and his clothes and whatever you like, so we're going to go File, Save As, and this is sort of a very important part of this process. So, so GIMP is interesting in terms of how so I can go Export As, and here I get to select my format. Now, if I just save it, I'll save it in a kind of a generic GIMP format, but if I export it, I can save it in file formats belonging to other programs. So this one here, Photoshop image, is what we're going to use. These different file formats have different properties. For example, if we saved it as a JPEG, which is this one here, all of our layers would merge. So we just end up with a flat image like the one we began with, just a single layer with everything on it, which would be fine if we were using it as a picture, but if we want to animate these individual layers, that's no good to us. PNG is kind of the same, single layer, but it has transparency. But the one we want that'll retain all of these layers is a Photoshop image. So I'm just going to put on my desktop, and I'm going to call this South Park character, and this is what we're going to create in class, and then that's what we're going to use then in our animation. So export, and I want